everybody, this is Mike Miller. Welcome to the Strike Up the Band podcast. Today, we have a very special show. We're doing a live interview with Mr. Etienne Charles. Etienne is a world-renowned trumpet player, jazz artist, currently living in the Miami area, I believe. And he is originally from Trinidad and Tobago and has a lot of Caribbean influence in his music. And we're doing a live show today because he's here in Spartanburg, South Carolina on the campus of Wofford College, and he's going to be doing a concert tonight with our Spartanburg Jazz Ensemble Big Band. And so we're really looking forward to that. So Etienne, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Okay.
Looking forward to this.
We're excited to do this. This is about the 5th or 6th year that we've done a concert with a guest artist. We've had, last year we had John Fedchop. We had James Carter, I think was the last one before the pandemic, and we've had, Wallace Roney played with us, and losing track, several other good players, but we appreciate you playing with us today.
It's an honor to be in that lineage and to be with you all, for sure.
I always ask everybody if you could just take us back to the beginnings and where you're from and how you got started in music, and just take it from there.
Yeah, my name is Etienne Charles. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago in Port of Spain in 1983, and I was born into a family that valued music very much. There was always music happening. My father was a DJ, and he played in a steel band. My mother always had music playing in the house. Both of her grandfathers were musicians, which I came to learn later on. One of my uncles was a choral director. From teenage years, he was conducting the choir in his church, and many of my uncles played guitar, quattro. So there was a lot of music, and where I'm from, Trinidad and Tobago, is a very musical place. There's all kinds of music out there: calypso, steel pan, Orisha music, chutney music. There's all the music that you hear on American radio stations as well, the quote-unquote top 40s that are popular at whatever time, or whichever era, whichever year, whatever's at the top of the Billboard charts, you'd hear basically on the radio, any radio station in Trinidad and Tobago as well. And so for me, before even knowing how to walk or talk, I could recognize music and understand what it did for people. And anytime I saw music, it was associated with people that were coming together, and it was associated with joy. And that was that. And when I was 4, I started at a school called Bishop Anstey Junior School, which is the elementary school that I attended for 7 years, and I joined what was known then as the infant choir. It was the young choir, and then from there I went into the junior choir, which is for elementary school is actually the senior choir, but they called it the junior choir. And so I sang in a choir and played recorder in school, which everybody had to do. Well, everybody didn't have to sing in the choir, but recorder was required for everybody. And then when I was 10, after I was finished with that school, when I was getting ready for secondary school, my uncle came down for my grandmother's funeral. He was a musician. He played saxophone and played trumpet. He still has his trumpet. And he told me he was going to get a saxophone for me after him to play the recorder, because woodwind. It's the same fingerings, etc. But then he sent a trumpet. I guess it was the only thing he could get in the pawn shop. So that's how I started playing trumpet. It was a different time. There was no social media. There was no devices. There were no screens. There were no gadgets. The only way I would screen was the TV. We didn't even have a computer then when I got a trumpet. And that was that. I started studying. First lessons were with at a place in Port of Spain. There was a teacher's name was Major Edward Wade. He was one of the military band conductors, and he taught all of the different instruments: trumpet, trombone, euphonium, etc. And then after taking for a few months with Major Wade, I went over to a place called the Brass Institute, which was led by a guy named Anthony Woodruff Sr. And he was a trumpet player, and he started taking us through our paces. It was more like group class, and we weren't like private lessons and all that kind of stuff, but you had your instrument, you would play in a group, they would put music in front of you, and you spend most of the time practicing to learn how to play the music, and then at the end of the evening, the group would get together and would play. And
before we get too far, I confess, I've heard of Trinidad and Tobago, but I had to look it up on a map to see exactly where it was. And not too far off the coast of Venezuela, right?
Yeah, it's actually 8 miles off the coast of Venezuela.
Okay, and is it a former British colony? Like
It is a former British colony, but it's also a former Spanish colony.
Okay. Is
Spanish
English the language there?
English is the primary language, correct.
Okay, so it sounds like they have a great music education system.
Well, we actually don't, unfortunately.
Okay.
Well, we have a good system for people to be exposed to certain styles of music. But if you think about music education in the grand scheme, I think we fall a little bit short. Okay. There are a lot of young people who play music, but they either come from a family of musicians or they come up in what's called a steel band, which is a band that plays steel band music,
sure,
all the time or during the stateside during the year. But in terms of learning anything like orchestra, band, there's not much in schools for that. There's choir. So if you can sing in the choir, but if you can't sing, you're out of luck.
I'd be out of luck.
So yeah, I would be out of luck now. But it was great growing up there, and believe it or not, Trinidad is so close to Venezuela. So when I was in the orchestra, a lot of our teachers that would come to work with us in the summer were from Venezuela, and they have the legendary Sistema system for teaching music publicly. So it was a great place to grow up, and I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. So what brought you to the U.S. and how long have you been here?
I came to the U.S. to go to university. I went to Florida State University, so I moved here on an F1 visa to do my bachelor's degree in music at Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida. I started there in 2002 and graduated with my Bachelor of Arts in 2006.
Okay, yeah. Florida State has a lot of haters around here because they play against Clemson.
Oh, that's right, the Bowden Bowl. That used to happen when I was in school.
Florida State used to whoop Clemson every year, and then
Clemson started whooping us.
It's kind of been opposite.
Yeah, I remember the Bowden Bowl when Tommy Bowden used to coach at Clemson, and I was in school then, and I remember, when Jameis Winston was a freshman, and the test was if he could beat Clemson. And they came up into Death Valley and national championship later. But then after Clemson's rise with Dabo Swinney and Deshaun Watson, and it's such an incredible legacy. Actually, my cousin used to work for Clemson, so we text each other every time Clemson would win. So a lot of Caribbean people go into the athletic programs at Clemson as well.
Okay.
So a lot of my friends that were athletes when we were growing up, some of them went to Clemson.
Is there a lot of baseball on Trinidad?
No, actually, ironically, because Venezuela's right here, Curacao is right here, Trinidad's right here. But we play cricket.
Oh, okay.
So that's our hand-to-ball sport.
Okay. I guess we could spend hours trying to explain cricket, but we don't have that much time.
We won't do that.
So tell us what you did at Florida State.
I was lucky enough to be mentored by some great musicians. Leon Anderson, who was the director of jazz studies. Rodney Jordan, bass player, is now one of the directors of the commercial music program there. Bill Kennedy, Bill Peterson, Scotty Barnhart, great trumpet player. He's now the director of the Count Basie Orchestra.
Okay.
And my main mentor there was a man by the name of Marcus Roberts, who was a legendary pianist and composer and arranger. Came to fame in the Winter Marsalis Quartet and then Septet. And he lives in Tallahassee. He's lived in Tallahassee since he went to Florida State in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
And he was very keen on us learning music, and he used his music to teach us. So we started learning his tunes, and then we went to him and said, can you show us how to play this? We're trying to figure this out. So then we started working on his music, and he would take us to perform with him. So it was almost like an apprenticeship. And he produced my first record. It was part of an independent study for me to compose music, particular styles. So I spent a lot of time with the piano. And he actually played on the record as well. It's one of the very few records where you find Marcus Roberts as the sideman. So so that was Florida State, and then I did my master's at the Julliard School in New York. I studied with Mark Gould and Joe Wilder and Chris Jowdis. I was a part of the Julliard Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah, does Julliard have like a full big band? Everything?
Yeah.
I know you mostly heard Julliard was a classical school.
Yeah, so they started a jazz program 22 years ago.
Okay.
In 2001, they had their first class. Ironically, the second day of class was 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Literally, it was the second day of class. Wow. And so, yeah, they've been at the game 20 years. At the time, there's a huge partnership with Jazz and Lincoln Center. So a lot of the members of the group, Jazz and Lincoln Center Orchestra, are part of the faculty at Julliard. Winter Marsalis is one of the, I think he might be the artistic director of Julliard Jazz. I know Aaron Flagg is one of the directors as well. And so it was a great time. We did touring. My first time in South Carolina was actually on a Julliard tour. We came and played in Aiken, South Carolina.
Okay.
I'm not sure how far that is from here.
About an hour and a half.
And then, that was a good time. And then I took up a professorship at Michigan State University. I was there for 12 years.
Okay.
And then I moved to Miami to teach at the University of Miami. So kind of like Trinidad, Florida, New York, Michigan, Florida.
So you had to buy some warm weather clothes to move north and then...
It's interesting. I still have all my warm weather clothes, and I still have all my cold weather clothes. And I still use all of them, because in Miami, the AC pumps. You walk in the building 8 o'clock in the morning, you feel like you're walking off a plane in Canada in January. So I still have all my flannel, I still have all of my my cold weather clothes that I've had from my time in Michigan. And it's fun. I mean, I still travel a lot. Germany in November, so there's certain things I'm always going to need.
So 12 years at Michigan State, that's a long time. You got the job there straight out of Juilliard?
1 year out of Juilliard, so I did 1 year freelancing in New York, and then I took up a position at Michigan State.
Okay, yeah, Michigan State's obviously a huge school.
Huge school, huge university, huge music school, great jazz program. I feel like I cut my teeth there. I felt like I was a student. I still feel like I'm a student in terms of always trying to get information and always trying to figure out what's next. And so it was a fascinating time. I had some great mentors there: Rodney Whitaker, Diego Rivera, Reggie Thomas, Randy Gillespie, Michael Largy, great musicologist, and there were so many people that were able to give me nuggets of wisdom and just give me direction about how to operate in the unfamiliar world of academia.
Yeah, I'm sure. So what was your job there? Did you direct the jazz band, or what was your...
I taught applied jazz trumpet. I conducted what's called Jazz Orchestra 2. And then I taught an arranging class, 2 semesters of undergraduate jazz arranging, 2 semesters of graduate jazz arranging. And yeah, it was fun. And I also ran a community music school, the jazz department at MSU's Community Music School in Detroit on Woodward Avenue. Okay. So they kept me busy, but it was a learning experience.
Okay. And during this time, you're also developing your recording career.
Yeah.
Tell us all about that.
So during that time, I'm also recording albums, and I spent a lot of time late at night after class was done or after my last lesson finished. Sit at the piano and write tunes or do arrangements or practice something or get ready for a recording session. So my first album came out actually while I was at Julliard. It was called Culture Shock. And it featured all of the faculty at Florida State University: Leon Anderson, Rodney Jordan, Marcus Roberts, Vincent Gardner, who was teaching trombone at the time, and a couple of singers like Pam Laws, Dave Stewart, and Ralph McDonald, who was my mentor when I moved to New York. And then after that, I recorded an album called Folklore right after I graduated from Julliard, some of the tunes I wrote while I was at Julliard. And then once I got to Michigan State, I said, okay, I need to keep doing albums, even though, I'm not in New York anymore, I still have to keep recording. So the first record I did while I was at Michigan State was an album.
Hey, we have a surprise visitor for the podcast now, Mr. Kevin Korshkin. Kevin is a drummer, and he plays drums with Spartanburg Jazz Ensemble, and he's the one who knew Etienne, who managed to get him to come to Spartanburg. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And Etienne was just telling us about the beginnings of his recording career. So if you want to continue with that.
So then the third album I did was one called Kaiso. I've been working on all these old calypsos. I'd done this concert in 2000, I want to say it was in 2008 in Trinidad, where a festival asked me to do jazz interpretations of all the music of Mighty Sparrow. And I was like, it's a fun concept. Let me look into doing an album. So I did. I had the ones from the Sparrow concert, and then I added some from Lord Kitchener's book and some from Roy Lyon's book. For me, my three, that's my big three when it comes to the OGs of Calypso, and we recorded that, and I added an orchestra for some of the charts, so Rose and Teresa. I had full orchestrations because at Julliard I learned about writing for studio orchestras. And after Kaiso, then I wrote a grant at Michigan State. They have a grant for faculty to get funding to do research on projects, and so I wrote one to do a research project that would end with a recording, and the recording was Creole Soul. And that album kind of took me into another stratosphere. Got a lot of press and started getting got a lot of radio play. I mean, I had Folklore got a good bit of radio play. All of my records I got good radio play, but Creole Soul went to #1 on the radio charts. It was there for 3 weeks, #1. It stayed top 5 for like 10 weeks. It stayed top 10 for 20 weeks. And then it was the #3 jazz record of 2013. It was like Christian McBride, Terry Lee Carrington, and me. And I'm just like,
wow.
What, this little independent record label, this little boy from Trinidad, And so,
what was the instrumentation? What kind of band did you have on there? I know I watched a little bit of it.
yeah. So Creole Soul is trumpet. The album was trumpet, alto, tenor, piano, bass, drums, guitar, and I also had percussion. But when we played live, it was trumpet, alto, piano, bass, drums, guitar, and I played percussion. So it's a sextet when I double up.
So, I know some of your recordings and videos I looked at, you had a lot of steel drums and that kind of stuff going on.
So I kind of always have to fuse because that's how I hear music, It's because it's like right? So when I'm composing or when I'm hearing music, I literally am hearing an engine room in my head. I'm hearing the percussion section of a steel, but I'm hearing iron, I'm hearing congas.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the influence from Trinidad.
Exactly.
I think steel drums are just such a cool instrument. I have no idea how they actually work.
So each instrument is a little bit different. The way they're made is very simple, right? So it's a process of heat and pressure. So you take a 55-gallon oil drum, and if you're making a low instrument, you keep the drum long.
Okay.
And then you make a sink. All the times you sink. So when you get an oil drum, it's normally flat, right? Mm-hmm. Right. It's not the part with the cover, the other side.
Right.
And it's flat. You make a sink in it. So you heat it and you hammer and you sink it. After you sink it, then you start to make notes. I mean, it's a long process, but I'm simplifying it for our viewers. So the bigger the instrument, the less notes you have on it. The smaller instruments, the more notes you have. So a bass steel pan, one drum in a set for a bass steel pan might have 2 or 3 notes. Normal, right? 2 or 3 notes.
And are they specifically tuned to a certain pitch?
Yeah, so they're tuned in the same 12-note system of Western harmony. And like I saw, a tenor pan is a fully chromatic scale on one instrument. On one drum. The double second pan is fully chromatic on 2. The double tenor is fully chromatic on 2. The guitar is fully chromatic on 2 or 3. The cello is fully chromatic on 4. You have a 6 bass, a 7 bass, 9 bass, 12 bass. And each one you get more low notes the more drums you have. And it's our orchestra. I'm lucky enough to have grown up in one of the best ones, so I was kind of face to pine group.
Did you actually play?
Yeah, I grew up playing tenor piano. My father played them, my brother played them, my uncle
Real
played
quick, are those with the notes? Are they like a keyboard? Are they chromatically around?
So each one's different. So the tenor pan is you have 2 types of tenor pans. You have what's called the 4th and 5th, which goes through cycle of 5th.
Okay.
And you have what's called the 3rd and 4th, which is a different system, one that I don't really know.
Okay.
And then the double second pan is all whole tones on one side, all whole tones on another side are semitone off. So when you put them together, you get a full chromatic scale.
Cool.
So if you're doing a scale, it will be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Or the other way, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So either way, either side is the same system to get the major scale. And that's the steel piano in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it than that, but.
You mentioned three guys at the beginning when you were talking about, and none of those three names do I know, so I got homework to do.
Oh yeah, those are calypsonians though. Those are
That's all right.
So Lord Kitchener is probably like, for me, he's the greatest calypsonian to ever lived. He was a very prolific genius. He wrote songs about everything there was. He was a master of the lyric. He was a master of double entendre. So he could be singing about one thing and you're hearing a completely different thing. And he was always listening to the Venezuelan radio stations. So back then you would start to hear a lot of those types of melodies in his music.
Yeah.
And then as a result, you would hear the Venezuelan bands playing his music.
It's right across the river.
Yeah, 8 miles. And then took me longer to get from Greenville to there. And then
And even longer to find a parking spot.
exactly. And then yeah, Kitch was someone, but they were all that music. What the music that Kitch came up in the 40s and 50s of Kitch was heavily influenced by the big band era. So you started hearing all these really grandiose horn introductions, like horn section introductions, and they would come from this arranger. His name was Rupert Nurse, who was actually the grandfather of a very, very close friend of mine that I grew up with, and he took a mail order arranging course with one of Glenn Miller's arrangers. Back then, because they didn't have the internet, they didn't have virtual lessons, but this one arranger, I wish I knew his name, he did a mail order course for anybody that wanted to learn how to write in the big band style. Glenn Miller was worldwide phenomenal, thanks to Voice of America, and believe it or not, World War II, because the U.S., anywhere they had a base, they built a radio station. And they pipe swing to Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey. That was the main music that most people heard around the world during World War II. And so Rupert put that sound into the introduction to Calypso, but he didn't have a big band. He only had 4 horns. So he used that technique, that what we call 4-way close voices.
Sure.
And he went on. It's really, for me, it's one of my favorite eras of Calypso. Because you literally hear the calypsos. You hear them swing. Tunes like Mama, This Is Mas, My Pussin', and Easter in Trinidad. It's a whole long list. We'll talk about it. Excuse me. Alright. What else going on?
So Karen had to go move his car. So let's see. Etienne was telling us all about his steel drum influence and everything. Just keep telling us what else did you have going on in Michigan?
In Michigan, I was playing and teaching, and I would be traveling. I was really trying to build up my group, so after Creole Soul, we did a Christmas album called Creole Christmas, which also became very popular. We still tour that project just about every year. We do maybe 5 to 10 shows during the holiday season, taking Caribbean and Creole holiday joy all over the place for people, just to bring in the holiday spirit.
When you're an active full-time teacher at college, how much time do you get off to do touring?
I mean, they're pretty. I'm lucky that they're flexible with my touring schedule, and I have a great crew of faculty and TAs. But also, I make up my lessons when I get back into town. Or I make it up before I leave. So that's. But a part of what we do,
Okay.
But
It's a live show, folks.
Yeah. But a part of what we do as professors is creative and scholarly activity, research, and scholarly endeavors. So touring, performing, recording, composing music, seeking out grants is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, I know. I remember that was an International Trombone Festival a few years ago. There was a trombone quartet from Michigan State.
Yeah.
And those guys were really, really good.
Yeah, Mike D is a great trombone professor. I remember when we went to school together at Julliard. He actually went to Florida State.
Oh yeah, Mike Dees is fantastic.
So he teaches at Michigan State.
Okay. So let's see, 12 years at Michigan State, and then moved to Miami. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I moved south in 2021. for our School of Music. Brilliant place. Great faculty, great students, great dean, great administration, beautiful campus. Sometimes I feel like I'm working at a resort. It's like this beautiful lake, and it's warm all year round, and yeah, it's really incredible. It's a very humbling scene because all of the faculty are so accomplished. You know, in Michigan State, everyone was really accomplished as well. So it's just a continuation of that. But in Miami, it's like one of my colleagues is a MacArthur Fellow, and there's like, you know, almost every one of the jazz faculty members has won Grammys for their albums. You know? So it's just like I'm literally like the shoes that have to be filled. But I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. So, but no, it's a great feel and it's a great place, and watching the students grow is really something.
How big is the program there?
We have I think less than 100 students, 80 something students. I guess because it depends if it's undergraduate, graduate. But yeah, somewhere between like 80 something 100 students.
Okay. Looking at some of your videos, looks like a lot of your music is influenced by the carnival season.
Yes,
in the Caribbean. Tell us a little more about that.
So I did an album actually called Carnival: The Sound of the People in 2000. We recorded in 2016. The first leg got released in 2019. The second leg hasn't been released as yet. And it was essentially a research project. It was a Guggenheim Fellowship I received to go to Trinidad and study the traditional aspects of Trinidad's carnival and find ways to use the musical styles of carnival in my own original music. And so in January of 2016, instead of going back to Michigan to teach, I brought out some teaching time and went down to Trinidad and have a great videographer and photographer that Maria knows. And I had a recording engineer with me, Robin Foster. And we went all over Trinidad, up into the villages, finding these practitioners and recording them, interviewing them.
Oh, cool.
And then while I was home, I had a Fender Rhodes at home. I still have it there. And when I would come home at night, I would sit down with whatever grooves I heard during the day and I would write something. And before I knew it, I had enough music for 3 albums. So we recorded 20-something tracks in August of 2016 in New York, and the first volume came out in 2019. It's called Carnival: Some People Volume 1, and I'm currently working on getting the second volumes together.
Okay. Well, that'll be great. Did you bring CDs to sell?
I brought CDs, I brought LPs, I brought socks.
Well, show us your socks. Since we're on video. There you go.
These are my socks. They're pretty clever. I also brought t-shirts.
Okay.
We do a lot of merch, so the socks are comfy. They're a lot of fun.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the show we're doing tonight. With the Spotlight Jazz Ensemble, you sent us half a dozen tunes, I guess, some originals, some arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
And the band's been working hard on them, and I have to say we're mostly a bunch of old black guys, and we're maybe not as well trained in the calypso rhythms and everything.
Don't worry, we're gonna have you bouncing. That's gonna be, we're gonna bounce. That's why I said what I said. I'm playing some of your tunes.
Yeah.
So we're playing some of your originals. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's I can say the tunes that Etienne sent us are a lot of fun, but some quite challenging rhythmically.
Yeah, the rhythm.
Sometimes it's hardly anything that's actually on the beat.
Yeah, it's funny. I just did a concert with the New York Philharmonic at the trumpet section. I went to school with one of the trumpet players in the section. We were at Julliard together, and so I went in the back to talk to them after the rehearsal. And he said, "You don't really write much on downbeats, do you?" I said, downbeat is for bass and drums. In calypso, with the horns are up. So that's just how I hear man girl playing calypso. So it's a trait that I would have to control moving forward.
If you get to the New York Philharmonic, you can probably read just about anything.
Yeah, they really could. So
fact, the principal trumpet player is from Atlanta, not too far from here.
Yeah, I know, it's great. He was playing a concert we just did a couple weeks ago. So
Yeah, Chris is amazing. All right, and there were also, let's see, Night Train. It's one of the arrangements she sent us. And,
Yep.
That's a very cool arrangement of Night Train.
Thank you. Yeah, I was commissioned by Savannah Music Festival for the Swing Central many years ago, and I just put it in my book. So it's a really fun track to bounce on. Actually, the melodies played by trombones.
I know, which is great. I'm a trombone player.
Yeah, as you can tell, I love writing for trombone.
Yeah, so we really enjoyed playing that.
Yeah, it's my favorite section in the horns to write for. It's literally, for me, the trombone section is how I make sure the music dances. You just always feel that. Boom, 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 yeah.
We'll do our best.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. All right, Etienne, it's going to be a good show tonight, and for everybody listening, I will try to post some videos of some of the tunes from the concert tonight on the website, and you can listen into that, and we're really looking forward to this. Thank you for joining us today.